So I wanted to follow up on my previous video about the state of Last Epoch and my reasoning for stepping away from it for a while. And the reason I decided to make this follow-up is because EHG did change their support philosophy shortly after that video went live, which does impact what I said about that. For anyone who's unfamiliar with what I'm referring to, one of the main reasons why I was so discouraged in the previous video is that a week or so ago, EHG came out and said they would fix the bugs in the game that caused performance issues, but they would not fix the bugs in the game that caused balancing issues during a cycle. The reason it was such a big deal is that it caused a massive exploit in some builds so that the meta in the game took advantage of this exploit that was explicitly, at the time, not going to be fixed until after the cycle was over, which of course disincentivizes players from making their own builds or even following build guides that didn't take advantage of the exploits. It breaks balance and squelches creativity, all of which I mentioned as criticisms of the game and the support methodology. Fast forward to now, when EHG has backtracked on that approach and stated that they will fix those bugs mid-cycle after all, which is the correct decision. It also has the unfortunate side effect of angering a lot of the players who put a lot of time into those broken builds only to see them nerfed. So it's a bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't circumstance that shows why it's so important to have a methodology that keeps problems like this to a minimum. So anyway, I'm happy with the change, and I think most players will be happy with the change, but it's unfortunate that all of this had to happen at all. And we'll get more into that in a minute, but I wanted to mention, first of all, the other reason for this video. So that is, I asked for your feedback, and in particular, whether I was overreacting to the bugs, the balance, and lack of polish in the game when I said it would be a game that would always have more of those things than I'm okay with in a game. So did I overreact? I think the answer is a definite maybe. I'm still open to the possibility, but it's too soon to tell. I'm definitely pleased that 11th Hour Games changed their tune on fixing bugs in mid-cycle. That is unquestionably the right decision. And as I mentioned in that previous video, it was the #1 cause of my discouragement. So I want to give credit where credit is due. Better late than never. I don't know whether they're doing it because they genuinely realize it's the right thing to do or because so many people complained. And ultimately, that doesn't really matter. Doing the right thing for the wrong reason is still the right thing. So it's a step in the right direction. I think it's safe to assume this will lead to a less buggy product moving forward. I'm still very interested to see whether their development and QA processes will lead to fewer bugs overall, because I don't think we have any way to know that yet, and all we can do is wait and see. But if the bugs that do make their way into the game are fixed in short order, that's a better approach than the one I criticized. One thing that won't be changed by EHG reversing course, though, is the lack of polish. I've said before that the story is fine. The delivery of the story is quite bad, but it's clearly a low priority for most ARPG players, and so that's unlikely to improve, which is a shame because I don't think it would be hard at all for them to improve the execution of the story, and it's really such a missed opportunity. It's one of the lack of polish issues for which we all have different thresholds as to how much we're willing to tolerate. As for the other polishing issues, I'm hoping that when I check in again, whether it's next month or next cycle or next year, they'll have made clear improvements. So I'm really hopeful that I did overreact about the polishing. I should have at least acknowledged that they've improved some of the sound, the combat animations, and things like that when they went to the full release. Now, I don't really see the game as a few weeks old. I see it as 4 years old because it's been in the hands of players for a long time. Even if I'm disappointed that more improvement didn't happen before the 1.0 launch, I should have at least acknowledged that some things did improve. I also should have acknowledged that yes, other games sometimes have bugs and balancing issues, not really to the extent that I've seen so far with Last Epoch, which is really where my frustration comes from. but I definitely could have done a better job with sounding objective. So I've given up on their improving dialogue or making the story at all meaningful, which is really discouraging, but maybe in time they'll make it so that my Sentinel's helmet actually shows up when I equip it. Okay, maybe that's minor. It is minor, but it's little stuff like that that does add up, at least for me. Anyway, I'm still hoping to make an apology video at some point down the road. I did pay money for the game after all, and there are a lot of things to like in it that I can see enjoying again at some point if the things that bother me don't get in the way as much as they have until now. Just one last note, I do really appreciate the feedback from those of you who did so in a reasonable manner. I think disagreements and discussion can be really productive, and some of your comments really did make me reconsider some of the ways I thought about this game. I've always wanted this game to succeed. I did, after all, make a video talking about how this could be the best ARPG on the market. And I obviously didn't do a very good job of making that clear with my criticisms. In hindsight, using the word doomed was bad. Even though I explained what I meant by the word, I should have known it's a trigger word for some folks that drowned out just about everything else I said. Anyway, there's bound to be more disagreement moving forward. Here's to a continued productive conversation and hopefully to an improved game. As always, thanks so much for watching or listening, and I'll see you in the next video.